So thank you everybody for coming out tonight to join us. And a special thank you to Chef Shaun for coming out tonight and making his special meal. Another thank you also to the Women of Color group who set this up for us today. We're very excited to have you with us, Chef Shaun. And a little bit about Chef Shaun. Correct me if I get any of this wrong, but Chef Shaun was a graduate from the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and he has been cooking up delicious meals for the last 12 years. He has a variety of very famous and well-known clients, including Alicia Keyes, Swizz Beatz, and other professional athletes. And we are very excited to have you make our baked lemon pepper trout with zucchini and coriander rice tonight. So again, thank you everybody for setting this up, and I will turn it over to you, Chef Shaun.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say thank you guys for having me. I know it's been a while for us to kind of set up this schedule to plan this. My days and my schedules are usually busy. Unfortunately, today I had a client postpone something, so I was able to kind of put you guys in today respectfully. So again, as was mentioned earlier about me preparing meals for athletes and entertainers. I'm currently cooking for Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, Terrell Edmonds, and Deontay Johnson, all of the Pittsburgh stars. So as you guys can guess, I'm very, very busy all the time. I hardly ever get any rest. But it's the life of a private chef. So if anyone's looking to do that for a living, just know that they're going to be very busy eventually. Right. So before we start, I just want to make sure, I don't know how we're going to go about this, but I want to make sure that everyone here, does everyone have ingredients, or is someone going to follow me, or you guys are just going to take notes? Can you hear me?
I'm following along with you. I have my ingredients.
Okay, so we have about one or two few people, or are you guys just going to follow me?
Can everybody hear okay? I just want to make sure the audio is okay. It was cutting out a little bit for me. So can everybody else hear okay?
It could be a little louder.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. I'll turn it up. Okay, mine is up.
Okay, much
loud
better.
as you can go. But I'll get started momentarily. So we're going to do this step by step. If I can kind of get a thumbs up, or that you guys are prepared to move forward, we can get the cooking process going now.
Ready?
All right. Okay, so first things first. List of ingredients. I'm going to explain to you guys what I have here. We have minced cilantro. We have ground coriander. Ground coriander. Coriander is basically the seed of a cilantro that's been ground. We have turmeric root, and we have diced zucchini, and we have a fillet of salmon, because trout. Salmon is the alternative for trout. Trout wasn't available at this time, so if you guys want to use salmon or trout, or even Arctic char, which is kind of equivalent to salmon or trout, you can use that also. But I have about 4 ounces here of salmon, and we'll get started. So the first thing you want to do is have your oven preheated to 375 degrees. Preheated. Now, I haven't preheated. Can everyone hear me? I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, everyone can hear me. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to start with the in my pan. So here's what's interesting about heating up the pan. So when you're making vegetables, when you're sauteing vegetables, cooking vegetables, first thing you want to do is make sure that the pan isn't super hot for vegetables. You don't want them to get too much of a char on them, but you want your pan super hot if you're gonna make a protein like fish or chicken or beef. So I'm preheating this stainless steel pan with grapeseed oil. I suggest to never use olive oil or any type of oil that would burn very quickly. Grapeseed, avocado oil, and at times canola oil would work. I don't suggest searing anything in canola oil. Canola oil is very good for frying. So, so we're going to get our pan nice and hot. So, as you can see, how you know that the pan is hot, you'll notice that the oil will start to kind of loosen up a bit. Slowly start to loosen up a bit. And we just don't, we want to make sure the pan is not smoky. We don't want to call on the salmon. The salmon is simply seasoned with kosher salt. So here's what I'm going to do. Right over the pan, I'm going to season. And also that salt will let you know how hot the pan is. Do that. So we're going to season this with salt and also back in there, and then we're going to season one side of the fish with a lemon pepper seasoning. Just one side, not the whole side. This lemon pepper seasoning is salt free. I don't buy seasonings that have salt in them. I want to control my own salt. Notice, hence why I use the kosher salt to season this. So we're going to put this skin side down into the pan. Let's give it a rub. Skin side down into the pan. And we're going to just let this go. So while this is going, you notice that it doesn't give a hard sear. We just kind of want this, let this cook from the bottom up. Once it gets about halfway, and I'll show you guys, then it goes into the oven to be baked or even roasted. So that while this is going, we also have, hold on. Have to wash your hands for no cross-contamination when you're dealing with fish or any type of raw protein such as seafood, chicken, or beef. We have pre-cooked basmati rice that I cooked prior. I like to cook with cold rice. I never want to put hot rice inside of a pan, especially if I'm adding other ingredients to it. I want the rice to be cold. So this rice has probably been sitting for about 2 to 3 hours, so it's nice and cold in the fridge. And we're gonna, now this pan here has been turned on. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little grapeseed oil, again, to this pan. From there, we're gonna add our ground coriander, and it starts to sizzle. Once that starts to sizzle, we add the turmeric. Now the turmeric is basically going to tint the rice. It's going to turn it yellow. Now, while this is going, let's give this a shake here quickly to kind of move the herbs, the spices around. We're going to put this into a 375 oven. We're not going to flip the fish. We're just going to leave it and let it cook from the bottom up. So now that this is ready to go, it's a very, very simple process. We're going to add the zucchini to this. Diced zucchini. We're going to give it a toss. Make sure all the turmeric and the coriander has coated. We're going to add a pinch of salt, a pinch or two. Now, zucchini is very porous, meaning that it absorbs everything that touches it. Meaning, so the oil that was in the pan is now in the zucchini. So I have to add about a swig of oil more. Now, if you smell this, it kind of reminds you of like Lebanese food or Middle Eastern food because of the turmeric and the coriander. It definitely does have that type of aroma. So I keep tossing. Remember, spices and herbs burn very quickly, so it's very important to keep tossing your vegetables here. Very important. Keep tossing them. And you just kind of want these to heat through. You don't want to get a hard sear on them. So now, what I usually do, and any chef will tell you this, you have to do quality control. And what does that mean? You have to taste. The taste. You have to kind of, that's really good. A little more salt, just a pinch. Once again, remember, we don't want the herbs to burn. The spices to burn in this pan. So we continue to keep tossing, and we let this go for a little while. And once we reach optimal flavor with the zucchini, we're going to add the rice to the pan, season some more, and we're going to kind of push it to the rear end of the stove top or the range top, and then we're going to just wait for our trout, salmon, or Arctic char to come out of the oven. So while this is going, here's what we're going to do. We're going to check our fish. If you notice, it's starting to get a little opaque there. You notice that? It's a little. It's starting to find its way up to the top. So this is a stainless steel pan. So usually, most people would say, oh, stainless steel sticks. But if you use your pan, often it turns nonstick over time. So it's back into the oven. All right, so toss the zucchini a bit more. Again, so when cooking rice, I'll give you a pointer when you're cooking basmati or even jasmine or long grain rice or short grain rice. No, not short. So the ratio is 1 cup to 2 cups of water, usually for long grain rice. But for this particular rice, it's 1 cup of rice to 1.5 cups of water. This cooks a lot faster than long grain rice. So if you measure 12 ounces of water to 1 cup of rice, start it off on high heat. Once it comes to a simmer, you turn it down to the lowest possible point, and then you cover. And that's how you get rice that falls apart and not sticky. You notice that. Falls right apart. And this is, anyone can do this if you follow the ratio, especially for jasmine or basmati. And what I'm cooking with is basmati. Again, give this a toss. And if you see the nice color on the zucchini from all the spices, the turmeric and the coriander, and then we add the rice to it. And you watch these colors come together. The rice is going to turn yellow. The rice turns yellow. For 1 second. All right. So, rubber spatula. Never use any stainless steel on a nonstick pan. All right. So we have this here. Again, what are we doing now? We're doing a quality control with rice and the zucchini. This is actually good, if I do say so myself. I think this is going to be a really good dish. A very healthy dish, by the way. All right, so this is done. This is what we want to do. Fire off the rear of the range, and we're back in with the fish. All right, so the salmon is done. Regardless of what you may think about undercooked fish, you want it to be kind of a medium to a medium rare. You don't want to cook your salmon all the way through because the carryover heating will continue to cook the fish. So from there, what we're going to do is take this off. Well, actually out of the hot pan. And we're just going to simply place it onto a sheet pan, quarter sheet pan. Here, we're going to let it rest. Do not touch the hot pan. Make sure you have a oven mitt or a towel. So from here, still cool, we're going to grab a plate. Hold on shortly. And guess what plate we're going to use? Chef at work. Thank you to my wife. She purchased this plate for me. Thank you, Ish. All right, so we're going to plate now. We're going to use this here. We're going to grab a spoon. Does anyone have any questions before we do any plating that you want me to go over? The food is just resting, so I can take any level of questions if you have.
Okay, I do have a question because I'm trying to keep up with you.
Yeah.
And so we haven't used the cilantro yet, right?
No, we haven't used the cilantro
Okay.
yet.
I
So
just want to
the
make sure I didn't miss
cilantro-
that. Okay.
Yeah, the cilantro is basically the garnish.
Okay.
So we haven't used the chopped cilantro yet, but we did use a form of cilantro, and that would be in the coriander that we
Right.
mix with the turmeric and the zucchini and also the rice. So
Right.
it's like it's really kind of staying within the same wheelhouse, which as far
Okay.
as herbs and spices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the lemon pepper, salmon or trout or Arctic char is just resting. We kind of want to let it rest a bit. It's perfectly cooked. It's not overcooked. It's not dry because I can kind of watch it glistening. So it's
Mm-hmm.
even, you can touch it.
Okay.
See that?
Uh-huh.
See the crust? I
Yep.
didn't flip it. When I took it out of the pan, I turned it over. When I took it out of the oven, I turned it over and I let the carryover cooking finish the cooking process. So you look at the
Okay.
top, it almost looks blackened.
Okay.
But that's just the lemon pepper seasoning. And we're still gonna let that rest. So any other questions? Because the food's it's still hot. I just want to kind of field questions or if anyone has any. Yeah.
I have two questions.
Sure.
This is Lottie. So my first question was about the oil. Can you use safflower oil?
Yeah, you can use safflower. I would suggest if you're going to make any proteins, especially fish, chicken, beef, lamb, or maybe even seafood, I would suggest any oil that has a high heat. I normally use grapeseed or avocado. Those are my two go-tos. I don't usually use anything out of that realm. Olive oil is I use that just for finishing. I don't use that to cook with as much, unless I'm doing scrambled eggs or something like that. I'll use it for that, but I don't really cook with a lot of olive oil. It burns and it really takes away the flavor of the oil. Olive oil by itself has a better flavor cold or room temperature than it would have if it's heated.
Okay. And then my second question was about the lemon pepper. So I have some lemon pepper seasoning, but do you ever use like fresh lemons and pepper, or would you recommend the seasoning?
Yeah, you could. There's a way to do it. You can use lemon zest. You can use pepper, and then you can add salt and garlic to it and use it as a basting for the fish. I chose this because I wanted it to have more of a crust or a blackened look to it. If this was like, I would say, poached salmon, I would probably use the lemon zest, fresh pepper, maybe some butter and minced garlic if we were going to poach it. But I want to give it that more blackened crust, instead of having it look opaque or kind of bland. Yeah, I just wanted to add more flavor to it. And I usually, like I said, if I use a spice mix, it's usually salt-free. Yeah, this one has no salt. You see. Yeah, you kind of want to control your own salt.
Okay, thank you.
You are very welcome. Oh, hold on. All right, pan's a little hot, so here we go. So what I usually do, you guys can't see that. So, all right, so what I usually do is I start off in the middle of the plate, and I kind of just, gradually, slowly but surely add the ingredients to the plate. And you kind of want to, I like white plates. I think it makes a better presentation. So we add this, and this is a really, home from work meal. And here's how you can get ahead of your schedule when you're heading in from work and you have to cook. You make the basmati rice the night before, place it in the fridge so it's ready to go when you walk in the door the next day after work. You portion out your fish. You either take the skin off or leave the skin on. And remember, this is all the night before. So most chefs know that you prep before you cook. So all of this was done prior to me cooking because it kind of cuts the cooking process in half. I pre-diced the zucchini. So it's really a simple dish. You can eliminate a lot of the coming home and having to prep and having to turn the oven on and all this other stuff. So I did all this ahead of time. So with that, so this is plated, middle of the plate, and this is a portion size. I would say this is about ratio between zucchini and rice. This is about 6 ounces total between the both of them. This is 4 ounces of fish. And what I usually do is I simply just place this on top of the rice. And then I add the cilantro on top. Now, cilantro, here's a very interesting biological fact about cilantro. So cilantro is a natural chelator. Chelation is what happens in your body. Chelation happens when your body has to remove any type of metals from your body. So that could be mercury, anything, any mineral from your body that would prevent you from, fighting off a cold or fighting off an illness. So cilantro works as a chelator. So in other words, when you eat cilantro, all those metals in your body kind of bond to the cilantro. And then when you go to the restroom, whatever you do, it takes about 95% of the metals out of your body every time you eat cilantro. So you don't need a ton of it. You just need like maybe a small shrub of it and add it to your dish. So it has a lot of health factors with cilantro. Also, there's coriander in the rice, which is another chelator because coriander is cilantro. It's just the seed of a cilantro plant or cilantro herb. So last but not least, here's what we do. So I do this all the time. So this is extra virgin olive oil. So what I usually do is finish my plate with olive oil. Just to give it some sheen, some pizzazz, and there you have it. Pan-seared lemon pepper salmon with a coriander rice and zucchini. And this is it. Very simple dish to create. You have your starch, your veggie, and your protein. That's pretty much all you need. That's it. Very simple, very easy. You can do this with chicken. You can do this with scallops. You can do this with shrimp. You just kind of, swap out one vegetable for another, swap out one protein for another, and this is it. You can swap out one starch for another. You can use diced potatoes with with green beans or diced green beans, and you can add scallops to it if you want, or even chicken or beef.
Is there, Shef Shaun, is there another herb or something or seasoning you could use rather than the coriander? Is it already ground?
Yeah, it's already ground. You can also use, sometimes I'll use sometimes I use ground ginger in the rice, or I will use like garlic powder or even ground fennel. Anything that will give the rice aroma, that's what I usually use for rice. But the important thing is that if you're going to use a spice for your rice, also remember that, I'll show you something. I keep a quart of cooked rice in my refrigerator at all times. So you cook about 2 cups of this, put it in a quart container and store it in your fridge. You have your starch for dinner. So that cuts your cooking time by 1/3. Simple. This is always in the fridge. I always have a quart of rice in the fridge. So I'm not looking for starch to eat with dinner. I always have rice. Sometimes I'll have pre-cooked potatoes every now and again, or I'll have a pre-cooked couscous, farro. I'll use that also. That's an ancient grain. It's been around since BC, farro. That can be found in the stores, your local Wegmans. I'm pretty certain they have farro there. Farro.
What about quinoa? Can you use quinoa?
You can use quinoa also. Quinoa is a great grain. You can use that. It has a lot of protein in quinoa. Quinoa can absorb any seasoning. You can add, here's a great seasoning that I use for quinoa. It's called Mexican Fiesta. It's a Frontier Co-op. I'll add that to the boiling water with the quinoa. And then I'll add black beans, a chili lime seasoning to a chicken breast, and that's dinner. The chili lime, I use that in this to kind of give you a Mexican or Latin inspired dish one night. Black beans, rice, black beans, quinoa, use this for the quinoa, use this for your chicken or fish. Black beans, set.
All right. Looks delicious.
It does.
Thank you.
I like how you said you could mix up the proteins and the starch. So if you're not a fish person, you could make it with chicken.
Yes.
Would you use the same exact spices?
Excuse me?
Would you use the same exact spices?
No, I usually mix it up here and there. Like I'm gonna give someone a plug. So sometimes I'll use this spicy Cajun Queen. Now this spice was created by a mentee of mine. I mentored her in the private chef industry. She's out of Queens, New York City. Her name is Chef Nancy, and she has a spice line. But I usually use these at home. My wife and I, we definitely use these. So if you guys are looking what to add to your spices, there's a rosy roasted garlic. There's a spicy Cajun Queen. There is a Mediterranean citrus. And I usually keep these by the stove just for seasoning purpose. Now these typically have salt, but they're not as salty as you would think. You can add this to eggs in the morning. Put this on your bacon. She also has a island jerk. And where is it? chefnancy.com. Yeah. So this is a really good spice line. And however, if you're looking for more, if you're health conscious, I would always say look for those spice blends that are no salt. Mrs. Dash is pretty good. I do like that brand, but I try to swear by no salt seasoning. You should be able to control your own salt.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
You had mentioned that you could do it with shrimp.
Yeah.
But because shrimp cooks really quickly, would you
Mhm.
just sear it in the pan and then just call it a day?
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't put yeah, pan, stovetop, sear on both sides. It'll probably take you about 6 minutes tops. Not too hot of a pan. Believe it or not, when you put shrimp in a really hot pan, it toughens them. So I
Mm,
put them in a medium high pan and let them kind of sizzle and then turn them. When you put them in a really hot pan, they tend to toughen and it kind of shocks the shrimp, which kind of forces them to kind of toughen up the skin. And you notice that in some dishes, some shrimp are very tender and delicate, and some are very, rubbery, where it's
mm.
kind of chewy. So never put shrimp into a very hot pan. Yeah. The only way
Awesome.
I would recommend using, like, if you were going to cook with scallops need to be prepared in a very hot pan, not shrimp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.